Well, the Cardinals drafted a pass rusher with one of the dozen or so day 3 picks they had in the 2021 NFL draft. And you're probably wondering, is he going to be any good? With the 26th pick in the 6th round of the 2021 NFL Draft, the Arizona Cardinals selected edge rusher Victor Dimukeje out of Duke. Dimukeje was a 4-year starter for the Blue Devils, and the Cardinals hope that over time he can develop into a starting caliber pass rusher. Like all prospects coming into the NFL, he has both pros and cons to his game. Dimukeje was a 4-year starter who had consistent sack production in his time with the Blue Devils. He has a quick and powerful initial burst coming off the line, and he's a relentless player who has a high motor. He has a pretty well-developed set of pass rush moves as a prospect, and he's been able to avoid injury issues throughout his college career. There are some things that are going to be challenges as he tries to adjust to the NFL. He lacks the elite athletic traits that are often looked for in the position, with the exception of perhaps strength. His closing burst, acceleration, and ability to chase ball carriers down are average at best. He doesn't possess ideal length for the position, and this is going to be a challenge as he faces tackles in the NFL. And if he isn't successful with his initial pass rush move, he has a tendency to get stuck and hung up on blockers. These are all things that are going to limit his ceiling as a pass rusher in the NFL. Before I discuss some of the NFL comps for Dimukeje's game, I just want to mention that I love this pick from the perspective of roster building strategy. I'm a big fan of selecting edge rushers in the middle and late rounds of the draft. This is a strategy that's been employed to perfection by the Baltimore Ravens over the years. The Ravens are known for drafting pass rushers on day 2 and 3 of the draft, developing them, getting the most out of them in years 3 or 4, and then letting them sign with other teams, but in return getting compensatory picks as those players leave. And then, as you see illustrated by this meme, they do the same thing over and they have a continual pipeline of edge rushers. As a roster building strategy, what this allows you to do is have, say, one high-priced edge rusher like a Chandler Jones, and pair him with those developmental players that you're drafting in the later rounds, like potentially Dimukeje, which in the end allows you to maximize your salary cap space. Instead of paying 2 high-priced edge rushers at any given time, you're typically paying 1 and keeping that pipeline on the other side. Now, for this to work, the Cardinals would need to continue to draft pass rushers every year or two, and they would need to develop them effectively. But as a fan of the way the Baltimore Ravens have drafted over the years, I'd love to see the Cardinals try to do something like this. As I've done with some of the other late round draft picks of the Cardinals, I identified 3 players that I think represent a good range of outcomes for Victor Dimukeje. The first player we're going to look at is edge rusher Eddie Yarbrough. Yarbrough went undrafted in 2016 and has spent time with the Broncos, Bills, and Vikings organizations. Yarbrough's physical measurements are pretty comparable to those of Dimukeje. He is about an inch taller, though his arms are about an inch shorter. He fared a little bit better in the 40-yard dash and 3-cone, but not quite as well in the 20-yard shuttle, vertical jump, or broad jump. Thus far in his career, Yarbrough has been sort of a bubble player, the kind of player who's gone back and forth between practice squads and active rosters. He played reasonably well in 2017 with the Buffalo Bills, but overall he appears to be at best a depth player in the NFL. When you look at a player who's selected in the 6th round, as is the case with Dimukeje, this sort of bubble player represents an accurate, low-end comp. And if Dimukeje doesn't develop into the kind of player the Cardinals hope he will, it's likely he'll spend a few years going back and forth between practice squads and active rosters and potentially be out of the league within a couple of years. For the next comp, we're going to look at a player with whom Cardinals fans are already well acquainted, Marcus Golden. The Cardinals selected Golden in the 2nd round of the 2015 NFL Draft out of Missouri. After spending 4 years with the Cardinals, he signed as a free agent with the New York Giants in 2019. But midway through the 2020 season, the Cardinals reacquired Golden via trade to help offset the loss of Chandler Jones due to injury. Golden has made no secret of his love for the Cardinals organization, and he re-signed as a free agent this last offseason on a team-friendly contract. When you look at Golden's physical profile, he's roughly similar in terms of height and weight, though his arms are a few inches shorter. In fact, this was one of the primary knocks on Golden as a draft prospect. Golden didn't fare particularly well in any of the other drills either. You can see that his 40-yard dash time, 3-cone drill, 20-yard shuttle, vertical vertical jump, broad jump, bench press, all were worse than those of Dimukeje, who himself didn't put up the best pro day numbers. But the fact that Golden has been able to be a successful pro in his career despite these limitations should give Cardinal fans hope that Dimukeje, who is also a high motor player like Golden, could develop into a productive pass rusher in the NFL. Now, Golden has had some injury issues, and his PFF grades have not always been great, but he has shown an ability to put up double-digit sacks. Golden serves as a great example of the type of player Dimukeje could become if he plays with a high motor and gets the most out of his skill set. Finally, I'm going to look at the player now that I think represents the high-end comp for Dimukeje, and that's linebacker Trey Flowers of the Detroit Lions. The New England Patriots selected Trey Flowers in the 4th round of the 2015 NFL Draft out of Arkansas. Flowers spent 4 seasons with the Patriots before joining the Lions in 2019 as a free agent. As a draft prospect, Flowers' measurables were remarkably similar to those of Dimukeje. His height and weight were nearly identical, though he did have a little bit longer arms and bigger hands. And his performance in drills like the 40-yard dash, the 3-cone, etc., were very similar to those of Dimukeje's. Altogether, he profiled as a very similar athlete. And when you look at the scouting report, you see a lot of similarities. A prospect with limited physical traits, a lack of elite closing ability, but a high motor that makes up for a lot of that. And over the course of his career, Flowers has become an outstanding outside linebacker. He doesn't put up elite sack numbers, but he plays very well in other facets of the game, including stopping the run, as evidenced by his outstanding PFF grades. Neither Flowers nor Dimukeje possess the high-end physical traits to be an elite pass rusher like Chandler Jones or a Bosa brother. But if Dimukeje were to make the most of his abilities, Trey Flowers probably represents his ceiling as a player. But if the Cardinals were able to get this kind of player out of a 6th round draft pick, I think we'd have to call that a resounding success. So what do you think of the Dimukeje pick? Let me know in the comments below. And while you're at it, please be sure to click like and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time on The Cardinal Rule.